On the line right now is Larry Kudlow from CNBC. Also can be heard on the Larry Kudlow Report. The Larry Kudlow Show on WMAL Saturdays at 7 p.m. How are you, Larry?
Good, thanks.
All right, so let's talk about Jeff Bezos because he's now the new Bezos. Excuse me. He's now the new owner, or will soon be the new owner of the Washington Post. Spent $250 million for the Post. He has revolutionized to some degree commerce. Certainly, a revolution. What happened in the book industry? What do you think he will do to the newspaper industry?
Well, those are all hard questions. Somehow he's got to go through some kind of digital revolution with the Washington Post, maybe including Kindle, for example. He's got to stop the hemorrhaging as all the advertising and the readership has moved to the Internet. It's going to be a difficult undertaking. I don't know what he's going to do. He hasn't said much. This came by surprise. This was arranged, I think, over the weekend by Allen and Company out in the Sun Valley, if I'm not mistaken. And I don't know what his game plan is. It's going to be very difficult. All these newspapers, as you know, are suffering. You had just a few days ago, the Boston Globe was sold for a pittance. You have the Chicago Trib and the LA Times are waiting to be sold. Am I right about that?
And then Newsweek just got sold again to IBT. There's a whole lot of movement going on. But I guess another question, though, Larry Kudlow, I feel like you've interviewed almost everybody in the world. Do you have a feel for him? Have you interviewed him? And what do you know about his politics? I've heard him described as a libertarian.
It's funny. I interviewed Jeff Bezos a couple times down through the years. In fact, Jim Cramer and I interviewed him the first time he made a quarterly profit, which was quite a few years ago.
Yeah.
I'll never forget that. It was a really interesting interview. His politics are what I would call Silicon libertarian. He gives slightly more to Democrats than to Republicans, but he's never been, so far as I know, a big giver. He said yesterday he wants to keep the values of the Washington Post the same.
Well, that's unfortunate.
It's going to deal. Well, the Post isn't the worst of it. It could have been the New York Times he was talking about. But I will say that he wants to keep this thing separate. I guess he's going to let, the editorial side be independent of the business and management side. I don't know if that's going to work. One of the things you have to ask yourself is, with all these newspaper difficulties, is the product what it should be? Is that part of the issue, or is there a sort of customer revolt against the product? And that would be the front page product. It would also be the editorial product. And then, of course, the biggest question is the distribution of that product. Now, Bezos is a genius at digital distribution. There is no question about that. We all live and breathe with Amazon, including myself. I can't remember the last book I bought that wasn't on Amazon. And he's got the Kindle 2, and he may try and make some use of that. But he's got to have a broader strategy, and it's going to cost money, and I know he's doing this for his own account, $250 million. It's completely separate from Amazon. But it's got to be more than a hobby, and we'll have to see what changes come. I don't think any of us know right now. It may be all in his head.
Well, he's going to leave the current management team in for now, which suggests day to day it's still going to be operated in a news gathering sense, the way it has always been, with few changes. But do you think we are at a time and a place where we will very soon have a Washington Post that no longer prints an actual dead tree version?
I think the answer to that is yes. I don't know how soon that's going to be. Bezos gave an interview to, I believe, a German newspaper or a German magazine a little while ago, and basically hinted that the days of print newspapers were over. Whether that's going to be 2 years or 5 years, I have no idea, but I think that's the absolute trend. It's funny. I'm a guy, I read online. In our business, it's so we all have to keep up with the information explosion. But I still get, I'll be honest with you, I still get a bunch of newspapers at home here in the morning, and I still am old-fashioned enough, but I'm a dinosaur, and the younger generation is all digital. It's all iPhones. It's all iPads. And that's the way it's for these newspapers.
Larry, it's okay for you to have newspaper. You have to read something on the number 2 train on your way to work.
I don't take the number 2, but I get your point. And I understand. The question is, what are you going to read it on? You're going to read it on your iPhone?
Your iPad or your
That's
Kindle?
Right.
That's right.
Well, you're going to read it on your Kindle.
Let me change directions because
that's really the key. I don't know the answers to that. There have to be major economies of scale, and there have to be major cost-cutting moves. I mean, you look at the price that this fetched, $250 million. This thing could have fetched, 5 times, 10 times this?
Just a few years ago.
So that just tells you something. A major change has to come.
Let me change directions on you for just a moment because I note that the price of a barrel of oil has gone up to $107 a barrel. And we look at what's going on in the Mideast right now. The United States, the new development this morning is ordered everybody out of Yemen while drone strikes are going on all over that country. What do you think that means when the price of a barrel of oil goes up to $107 a barrel?
Well, I think it's affected, yes, by what's going on in the Middle East and by the Al Qaeda threat. Yes, I don't think it's as big a premium as it could have been. I mean, a couple of years ago we saw oil at $150 a barrel for a variety of reasons. Oil's too expensive right now in a market sense. With the production of oil here in the United States, the shale production of oil and natural gas for that matter, it's way overpriced in any fundamental sense based on the movement of other commodities and so forth. But having said that, as this emergency unfolds, if it's a crisis, we'll see. If there are any attacks, we'll see. Yes, sure, oil could go higher. But I don't think that's going to be a gigantic issue. I don't see that as a gigantic issue, unless you're talking about an attack directly on the Saudi oil fields, okay?
Right.
It's always an issue, and I grant you that. But I don't think oil is going to go a whole lot higher.
All right, Larry Kudlow, we'll leave it there. Thank you as always. Host of CNBC's The Kudlow Report, and right here on WMAL on the weekends, it's the Larry Kudlow